Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 56. We got a prospect preview. It's going to be Roman Wilson, Lad McConkey, Malachi, Corley. We're brought to you by Dynasty Theory in partnership with Dynasty Daddy. And as always, fantasy football, please like, comment, subscribe. Join the Dynasty Theory Discord. We're all in there. You can DM us to get into there. Holler and McSpanky are here tonight with me. How's it going, guys?
It is going. We've been making some coaching hires. We're filling out some offensive coordinator roles, some good, some bad. We got the Senior Bowl recently, so it's exciting times.
Dang, I didn't get invited to the hiring process. You said we've been hiring some coaches. I didn't get invited to that.
Well,
we're gonna get an offensive coordinator for this show for sure.
We should, yeah. I'm just kidding, but yeah, no, I'm doing good. You know, I'm it's kind of slow time, ready for the Super Bowl, but I really don't love one game. You know, it's I'm excited for the Super Bowl, but overall it's kind of boring. You know, boring time.
Sure.
But it's been fun looking into the prospects and so many good wide receivers this year. I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely. Should we hop right into the news with these coaching hires?
Let's do it.
You know it.
Have we hit the major one of Dan Quinn becoming the Commanders head coach, Mike McDonald of the Seahawks? I think that happened in between this show and last show.
I think so, yeah. We hit Mike McDonald, but
yeah.
Did we? Okay.
Dan Quinn is a new one. Yay.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like they just traded in Ron Rivera for Ron
exactly.
Rivera.
Yeah.
Because Dan Quinn's a really good defensive coordinator. I don't think, at least the first time around, he wasn't the greatest head coach. You know, I'm sure he's learned some stuff and maybe he's better, but I don't know. That's not like a very inspiring hire, in my opinion.
No, I agree 100%. And then they went in, hired Cliff Kingsbury. You know, I think he's okay as an offensive coordinator. He's obviously not good as a head coach. But if you look at what he did in Arizona, like it wasn't anything special.
It was So I pulled up the scoring offenses for Kingsbury's four offenses in Arizona. They finished 16th, 13th, 11th, and 20th. So very just kind of middle of the pack. And the thing I always remember is he would have a good game plan, but the offense never adjusted. And so it was like once the defense figured out what they were doing, it just was like, well, that's all she wrote. And then hopefully Kyler can save the day. But in Washington, they don't have a Kyler. So. At least not yet.
Nope. Well, do you think there's smoke to them coming up for Caleb with the Bears?
There are. So I saw the rumor. I wanted to get you guys' thought on it. So did you see that they were trying to either jump the Bears to get Caleb Williams, or they would stay at 2, take Marvin Harrison Jr. and then trade because they have 2 second-round picks, like in the top 10 picks of the second round. Trade one of those and get Justin Fields.
You can trade the Bears pick back to them for Justin Fields.
Yeah.
How wild would that be? It would just been Justin Fields for Montez Sweat. We should have just done it to start.
So I think it would be smarter of them to do that. Obviously a little bit cheaper, but we kind of already know. I don't know if 100%, but like we kind of already know what Justin Fields is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he does need to progress. I don't know how much he will progress with Cliff Kingsbury, but I do think there's a lot of smoke with Caleb going there, right? I think it kind of all just sets up right, and I personally think they will overpay, and I think he will be a commander.
It makes sense.
Context to Caleb. Go ahead, Frankie.
I was just gonna say it makes sense with Washington, new ownership, new regime, wanting to make a splash, get their guy. And Caleb's from DC, isn't he?
That's what I was gonna say. Is he's from DC? Cliff Kingsbury was just with Caleb at USC this past season, so they have familiarity between each other. And actually, what I learned today, Caleb actually had I believe it was his best passer rating throughout his entire college career. in this past season, which I kind of thought was surprising because we all kind of pooped on him all year long for kind of being crappy. You can fact check me on that one, but yeah, it's kind of a bit odd, but it probably kind of falls into a little bit of prospect fatigue and things like that. I know we've kind of went back and forth with Caleb in the DMs for sure.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think he's going to be the first overall pick, and he's going to go most of the time 101 in the rookie drafts, and so I just think I have a really like a hunch that Washington will overpay and it'll end up being there. I think that's kind of why they went out and got Cliff. They could have gotten, I don't know about anybody else better, but I mean they could have got somebody else. And I think I personally just settled with Dan Quinn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, they waited so long, and then they did a Ben Johnson smear campaign. Like, look, if Ben doesn't want to come coach for you guys, don't be upset about it and smear the man's name. Okay? Come out saying that he is a terrible interviewer. He wanted too much money. Well, then why did you want him? Why did you wait so long if all these things were true? I won't get on my line soapbox for too long. But yeah, and poor Aaron Glenn just left out to rot. Like, they were also coming to interview Aaron Glenn too. Whatever. Well, continue on.
You get to keep him in Detroit, and to follow up on Caleb Williams, his NFL passer rating, at least, I don't know if his QBR was different, but his passer rating was actually the worst this last season.
Oh, it was the worst? No, I got bad information.
But Jeez. It was, it was like 117.4, and his high was 118.9, so it wasn't like he was bad. It was it's pretty trivial at that point.
I gotcha. Yeah. How excited are you, McConkey, for Luke Getsy?
I'm not. I already checked out for the next season. We're done. Just pack it. And then there was a report earlier I saw. I think it's just kind of random rumors, but saying that they might stick with Aiden O'Connell. And I was like, just pack me in, dude. We'll try again next year.
Yeah, I don't think that's a truthful, because there was not any like who it came from. It was just a random person on Twitter, but I saw that as well from another Discord I'm in. But if that's the case, I think he's fine. Aiden O'Connell, I think he's fine, but he's not going to take you anywhere. Like, I think he's a good replacement quarterback. If you have somebody come in and get an injury, he's not your like number one guy, in my opinion. He's a fine backup and would come in when he needs to,
I don't even know if he's that. Like, dude, that Chiefs game they won on Christmas, he after the first quarter, he didn't complete a pass.
That's true. So ridiculous.
Now, granted, they won, but
that's true.
They won in spite of him. So,
there was 2 pick sixes in there, I believe, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were. Yeah, that's true. I didn't fully remember that, but so yeah, basically he's kind of I don't really think he's anything.
That passing performance is ingrained in my brain. So
I totally forgot that they had won that the Raiders beat the Chiefs. Like, the Chiefs are here playing in the Super Bowl, and you lost a game. Sorry, McConkey, to the Las Vegas Raiders, who didn't throw a pass outside of the first quarter. Like, that's just insanity. Right. You got that right. Hang the banner. Hang the banner. Oh, trust me, I've hung many imaginary banners in Detroit for dumb wins or almost winning games against Super Bowl champions. So Chargers have hired Greg Roman as offensive coordinator, and I know in Jim Harbaugh we trust with the development of this team roster as a whole and winning as a whole. I'm not overly thrilled because Greg Roman usually works with a little bit more mobile quarterbacks than what I think Herbert likes to be. We'll see where it goes.
I mean, he was there initially with Alex Smith though too, which I think is comparable in terms of mobility. I mean, Herbert's not immobile. He's surprisingly
definitely. But I just think I think Lamar Jackson,
Lamar and
Colin Kaepernick.
And Kaepernick, and then like it's run first, then we'll pass if everybody decides to come up while I'm running, across the line here.
I think that's going to be more the issue, because that's kind of how Harbaugh runs his offense, right? I think there are some, worries with people. And Justin Herbert, I've seen him drop a little bit in startups. He's going like in the later first, which I think is I think it's not warranted. Because I think that Herbert is the best quarterback that Harbaugh has ever had, right? Even
by far.
So I do know who else would be better.
Andrew Luck.
Okay,
in the NFL is what I was thinking. But,
yeah.
Okay.
Andrew Luck, fair.
So second best. Okay, in the NFL though. And so I just think I think we need to wait a little bit and see. I'm not overly excited about Greg Roman, that's for sure. I do know he, like a lot of people do like him though. He does run a solid offense. So I think it's more of a wait and see for me. I think the bigger issue is just how bad of a hole they are in this cap situation. I think that's the bigger overall issue than anything. I do think Harbaugh's a good coach. I think Greg Roman's a solid offensive coordinator. So I think Herbert will be just fine.
I agree. He was also a QB1 on a points per game basis, and a lot of those games he only had Keenan, and some of those games he didn't even have Keenan. And Eckler was a shell of himself. So I think it's just fine. Oops.
I think it's possible that Herbert can be better with a lower volume, just because the offense itself can be better just based on coaching and some of his receivers back and healthy. So I think he used to be more efficient.
Yeah, I'll be totally watching to see what the Chargers do, like with their whole offense and everything. They need a running back. They need, we'll see if they get rid of some of the high, more of the more expensive contracts, and then maybe they'll open up a little bit of cap space. I don't know. I've heard a little bit of Saquon Barkley rumors to there, which would would be, that's just more of a hope than anything because they don't have the money. So, I think they're going to get a lot of it done in the draft.
I think they're going to have to. I don't know. I've seen the Saquon hype. I don't think they can afford it.
Correct. I agree.
Unless they do some weird, what was that? Taysom Hill, who got that super funky deal where it was like a 4-year deal, but like all of it was like backloaded to the last year and it wasn't guaranteed money. So if they do something wonky like that, but
they can't do that with someone like Saquon. That was, Taysom is but he's just a tight end, and
he's an offensive weapon. First of
all. I just think Saquon's gonna want money and fully guaranteed for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he's kind of made that clear through his other negotiations that we've seen before with him.
Totally.
But they could. I can't remember how much they can clear, but they have like a bunch of older veterans. Most likely just thinking Khalil Mack really is probably a pretty hefty cap hit. They could clear some money off the books.
I think Mike Williams too.
Yeah. I know at the Pro Bowl, if that's what we call it still. But Keenan said he wanted to go back and continue playing, and I think he's still under contract, to be honest, though.
I think he is. I bet they restructure his deal.
Yes. I think that would be good of him to do.
Yeah, so he's got one more year left on that deal, and his cap number this last year is $34 million. There's no way they let him go into the season with that. They're gonna
they have multiple contracts like that, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
His dead cap's $11 million.
Wow. All right, next offensive coordinator hire, Clint Kubiak.
Yeah. So this one's a little strange just because it feels like he coached for the 49ers. So they said, it's close enough, right? It's like he knows he had Shanahan's playbook in his hand, and they said, we'll figure it out.
They went to the bathroom together one time. Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't know. It's just silly. It feels like anyone who's in that who's coached near Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, they get offensive jobs because they just I don't know.
But I mean, to slightly push back on it, who have we seen fail miserably that comes out of that tree?
Luke Getsy. Just one top of mind.
That's a fair one. I'm just thinking like where we have like
But
Slowick at this point, and we have Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings, Mike McDaniel in Miami. There's
Staley.
a whole Staley, yeah. But
He did not do so well.
No, he did not.
But
They're
I think
offensive guys though.
Yeah, so I was gonna say I think
the Chiefs not the Chiefs, the Bengals head coach too. I can't think of his name off the top of my head right now.
Zach
Taylor.
Yeah.
Zach Thomas.
Zach Taylor.
Not Zach Thomas. He's a middle linebacker from the Dolphins from the 90s. Forget about that.
So I think it's a little bit different as a coordinator than it is a head coach, so but I agree. I think it's a little bit weird. And, I think I like the note here that do we just hire anyone who has worked with Shanahan? Or McVay for that matter. So a lot of them have done well, but there are some that have not. Right. And so I think this will be something to watch. I think that bigger than an offensive coordinator, I think they have issues with, obviously Derek Carr and, they still have Chris Olave. They still have, I think Kamara is still under contract. So, I think they'll be all right.
Kamara, Jamal Williams.
They have that offensive weapon, Taysom Hill.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
So
they're also in a spot in the draft they could get another wide receiver. I think they picked 14, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they're 14. So they're right in that spot of,
Michael
maybe
Thomas says he's going to have his best season ever.
I'm sure he says that.
I actually just picked him up in our.
There's like 20 more rounds of that thing, I think.
I know, it's ridiculous.
So fun fact on Michael Thomas, in my first ever Dynasty league, it was a 1 QB league. He was my first round pick. I took him 101. And if you're wondering how that team's doing, it's not.
I got some of those too, McSpanky. Those
I just took him in 24-8 in Cole's charity league. So the 24th round.
How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
Stepping up in the world.
I will sure hope he has his best year coming up. That would be nice.
He could be. Should we get into these prospects here?
Let's do it.
Okay. So for the first prospect, we got good old Lad McConkey, the Georgia Bulldog, standing at 5'11", 187 pounds. He's projected to be a top 50 pick. Dane Brugler has him as his number 48 player, and Daniel Jeremiah has him as his number 44 player. And they have been talking about Lad for quite some time pre-Senior Bowl hype. So they were pretty early in on this dude for sure. What do you guys think about old Lad?
So I like Lad McConkey. He didn't have a ton of production at Georgia, but I think some of that was based on I think he was hurt for a decent part of this year, and then some of it just like the offense in general. They were pretty run heavy, right?
Yeah,
totally. But he's shifty, man. It kind of shows like in the Senior Bowl. It seemed like nobody could cover him. He's a really good route runner. Honestly, so I was telling these guys before the show, and I'll tell everyone now, but Lad's McConkey, when I was watching his tape, he reminded me so much of watching Golden Tate. Just when he gets the ball in his hands, he just looks like he's gonna score every time he touches the ball, and like he puts defenders on skates. It was really impressive watching him. Like, I mean, you can see he returns punts. You can see why, right? Like, he's not the fastest dude, but he's really shifty, and he knows how to set guys up to basically force them miss tackles, and he's pretty strong.
Yeah, so he stole a few of my strengths for him. One that when I was watching him, that I thought which will keep him on the field is he's actually a smaller guy, but he's a good blocker, right? So in the run game, he is a good blocker, and so you see that in what Georgia does is their run first team. So I think that's something that's going to keep him on the field, which is important, right? And so I just think a couple of his strengths are he's just like he gets good separation, and like Spanky said, he was shifty, right? And so I just think he's a really good route runner. He's quick, he's strong, and so I just think he's a player that's going to stay on the field, and that's somebody that I want, right? I think if you're staying on the field, they're gonna want to get you the ball, And if you're on the field, there's more opportunity for you to get the ball. So even if it's a run first team, maybe they could do an option, and then he's going to still be on the field, like I said. So I think that's somebody that's going to be an asset to any team, to be honest. I was looking up. I've done a couple mock drafts of just rookies, and in one that we did with some of the guys in the Discord, it was Ron. He was picking at 110, and he took Lad, and I think that's a really good spot to get Lad at. And then I had one other one that I did in just a random one, and Lad was taken at 112. So I think at the back end of the first is somewhere where you're going to get him, which I think is a really good spot. I think that's right now. Obviously, I think if there's a little bit more hype, he could move up a little bit, because we've been talking about it in our DMs. We've been talking about it a little bit, but the back end of the first is not really a very good spot. There's not really any. I don't love any of the running backs this year, and I just think there's like. So I think that's a perfect spot for McConkey to go.
There's two running backs I really like, but we don't need to talk about them. We can talk about a different time. But McConkey, I think kind of early second is probably where I would imagine he'd go, just because I think there's some guys that we might not be as high on that I think the general fantasy community is. Like Adonai Mitchell and like Young Coleman and some of those guys.
So
Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin, they're all in those. In that spot. I think Brian Thomas is slightly just ahead of those guys. He's kind of, I feel like, cemented himself almost at that 108 he's getting like top 15. He's on Daniel Jeremiah's. He's the number 14 or 15 player on his big board right now.
So this is like in the Discord, like overall, Keon Coleman is not a very liked player, excuse me. And so he was taken at 3.9 in that one, in which in some of your more random leagues or things like that, he will be taken in the first round, because I think he will still get taken earlier than McConkey and some of those other wide receivers in the draft.
John Coleman is a freak. Like physically, that dude is a freak. He's like 6'4", and he moves really well and all that kind of stuff. He has highlight reel catches, but he also has some very concerning drops that I saw on tape when I watched Keon Coleman. But we're talking about Lad McConkey. I like Lad. I like to, I'm just becoming a slot lover. And
he loves slots,
slotty, baby.
Yeah, I'm a dirty slot, that's for sure. I just, somebody that can get open and can just suck up volume and just move the chains. Sometimes it's like you don't have to get the touchdowns. You're just moving chains out here. You just target. So when I was watching his film, I don't think this is a 1-for-1 comparison or anything, but some of the stuff that he does well, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown does really well too. They kind of have some of the similar skill set on that out route for sure. I see Amon-Ra run that thing all the time. And like the very first route that I watched Lad McConkey run, he toasts Terry and Arnold, who's the first round Alabama corner, on an out route. And, just things like that. And sticking his nose in for the blocking kind of reminds me of what Amon-Ra does as well. He does it all. And I think, Lad could kind of find himself in maybe not, the superstardom of what Amon-Ra has become, but, similarly skill set, I think.
So just a couple of numbers that I wanted to point out here, like yards per route run, he 3.26 was his last year in college. So just for context, anything over 3 is like really, really good. So 3.26 is super good, really exciting there. It just kind of means he's running, good routes and he's seeing good targets. And then the other note I had down here was quarterback friendly. So the NFL passer rating system, it goes from 0 to 158.3. When he was targeted, his passer rating for the season was 136.8, which is like super high. So basically, he knows how to get open. He's very he's good hands. I watched him. Basically, he finds soft spots in the zones. So which it seems like a lot of teams are playing with that high cover 2 shell. So it seems like he's a perfect fit for really any offense nowadays. And I'm excited to see what he can do. I think he's got a really high ceiling, surprisingly.
Yeah.
He's always working to get open. You know, the effort is always there. Like, I don't think you ever have to question anything along those lines, you know, with old lad.
And some of the articles I was reading, some of his weaknesses, which are, to me, is kind of like a little bit weird because he's such a like dominant. He blocks really well, and so one of the concerns was that he has a hard time like handling physical corners. But to me, if he can block well, I think he can progress, and you know, I think he can work through that one of those weaknesses, right? If he goes to a good team with a good coaching staff and things like that. And so I just think he's a very like that. The ceiling is very high, right? Exactly what you said. And so I think some of his weaknesses can definitely be overcome, and I think he will progress really well. This is, you know, I think he's a really good prospect coming in.
They used him on end arounds too, as well at Georgia. So, you know, he's got that in his bag of tricks too. And, you know, for the, you know, struggling with jams at the line, I mean, there's tons of things teams do now. You can just you keep him in the slot, you know, where we kind of think he should be, move him around the formation, things of that nature. This dude's going to be a matchup nightmare for linebackers.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. Is like, he's definitely going to play more in the slot. And another one of the weaknesses that I was reading that he, you know, struggles to get separation. So if you're going to put him in the slot, I think he will be able to get that separation, you know, running in he's not going to play on the outside. He's a little bit of a smaller guy. So,
you know, what's weird though, is at Georgia, they use him as an outside receiver.
Yeah.
They kept sending him deep, like all in the film. I'm like, let this man work, dude. What are we doing here?
So I think that's kind of where those weaknesses are coming from. And I think he's actually, I mean, I'm not a football coach or anything like that, but just, you know, from what I've seen him do well is I think he would be better in the slot. Right. And so I think that's where those weaknesses are coming from. They're putting him on the outside and he's a little bit of a smaller guy. He's not going to be, you know, a jump catch guy.
The landing spot, so I'm assuming he's going to get top 50 draft capital that I've seen that I really like is pick 48 to Jacksonville. I think he would pair really well with Christian Kirk and Trevor Lawrence down there in Jacksonville, assuming Calvin Ridley's out the door too, because he's a free agent. So
nice. I definitely don't want him to have to walk in and be the guy as the receiver on his team. I would be more concerned if he goes somewhere and he has to be the guy for sure.
I agree 100%.
Should we move
a lot
on
of these
go ahead.
I was just going to say a lot of these wide receivers, there's a couple that obviously are not, that could be the guy, but a lot of these wide receivers this year I feel like are secondary guys, right? But they're very, very good secondary guys. So if they can progress, they can be the guy. But I think there already are quite a bit of good wide receivers in the league, and so I think a lot of these guys will complement them well.
Yeah, these back end first guys all feel like compliments. Outside the top three for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, obviously, we've talked about him before. So,
okay, should we move on to Roman Wilson?
Yeah.
Okay, we got Roman Wilson from the University of Michigan. He's standing at 5'10", 186. He's projected with a round 3 draft capital. I don't think he's in the top 50 on anybody's draft big board at the moment, but he did light up the Senior Bowl. I think he's a little bit more physical than Ladd.
Yep.
But other than that, you know, it's kind of the same problem with him. Watching him, I said it in the DMs, it was tough to watch them because of how little their usage was in college, just because of the offense they played for, really. So it's a lot of projection on the skill set for sure, and where they go, what offensive coordinator they get paired with, who's around them, things of that nature. But I do like Roman Wilson too. Speedy, man. He's speedy across the middle for sure.
Go ahead, Spanky.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, he's a really good receiver. Like, and you kind of mentioned across the middle, like he actually had a perfect passer rating when targeted more than 20 yards downfield in the middle of the field. So for context there, that was 7 out of 7 catches on 8 targets for 195 yards and 3 touchdowns. So pretty good. He was also, on that note, like he a touchdown monster. He had 12 touchdowns for Michigan this past season, which just raw numbers. I mean, it's impressive in and of itself. But Michigan only had 24 passing touchdowns for the whole season, so that was math checks out there. That was half. And just really good route runner, which I mean it kind of checks out because if you kind of look at his numbers between 10 and 19 yards run, like. Sorry, I just blanked. I had him. He had a 64% reception percentage on those. 37% of his targets came in that range, so it just kind of shows me that he gets open, and that range in particular is not just scheme. Like you have to do something to get open there. So he's setting up defenders.
Definitely.
So some of the things that I was watching is, to me, I noticed he's not very good at yards after the catch. Right. And so I think he's more of that speedy run straight down the field, beat the guy and be, I wouldn't say wide open, but be open and get the ball. Right. I think unfortunately he's a little bit smaller, so he needs to play in the slot. And I think he has a limited route tree. So I think I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate. I do like Roman. I think I got caught in the hype a little bit with him at the Senior Bowl. He looked very good. But he's maybe somebody that I might pass on, just depending on where he'll go. I think he'll go more in the middle to back end of the second round in rookie drafts. Maybe more the early. I think it just depends. I think he'll be going after Ladd. I think Ladd is one of the better, out of the three, he's the best wide receiver that we're talking about tonight. And then, but I think another really, really tough wide receiver, going to bring like leadership and a lot of speed to any team that he goes to. So I think he also really needs to be put in the right spot and will need to go to I don't want to say very specific team, but like they need to use him in the proper way. You're not going to be able to just put him anywhere and he won't be like, there'll be issues with him getting open. I feel like so, but I do think he will be able to beat anybody, right? With that speed that he has. He when I was watching, he beat so many guys. Like I think you put it in there, Spanky. When he was targeted 20 plus yards down the field, he the perfect passer rating with the quarterback. So to me, that's pretty darn good. You're going to be beating a lot of people. So I do think he is. He's fit like a good slot receiver, but I think he needs to progress with his routes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's pretty much purely a slot, and like unlike McConkey, that Michigan used him that way too. Like his junior year, he ran 90% of his routes in the slot. This past year, it was 68.7. So I think Michigan figured out like, hey, this dude, he eats in the slot. Let's not put him outside anymore.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
Yes, totally. I think again, just like Ladd, I think he a little bit too small to be on the outside.
He went at 3.6 in both of the mock drafts that I took part in as well.
That was before the Senior Bowl hype, though, wasn't it?
No, we just did these 4 and 5 days ago. I think these are after.
I think he definitely shoots up. I think he goes middle of the second, maybe back into the second, just depending on landing spot. But
I am right there with you because I was kind of surprised when I pulled up and saw the third round.
Because I think part of it too is last year Puka Nacua was the darling of the Senior Bowl, and so I think people are gonna. Well, Roman Wilson is he this year's Puka? Well, I'm gonna take a shot on it, and maybe he sneaks up higher than he probably should go. So because of that, I don't know how much of him I will get, but I do like Roman Wilson. The one concern I had. So a decent amount of his production this year, which wasn't a ton, came in the first, 3 games of the season against East Carolina, UNLV, and Bowling Green. That was 6 of his 12 touchdowns. So a little concerning that he just basically beat up on crap teams.
Well, and I feel like
we're Michigan, baby.
The Big Ten has solid defense, right? But I just, they're not the greatest teams, like out of the top like 3-4 of them. So it is very concerning that he kind of, I wouldn't say disappeared, but kind of disappears a little bit in those bigger games.
To his credit, he did play really well against Alabama in the playoffs.
Yes.
Now, granted, this wasn't the same Alabama team that we've seen the past decade, but
they're putting both of those corners into the first round of the NFL draft.
Sure. Kool-Aid.
So, because go watch them cover Brian Thomas, and you'll be like, holy shit.
They didn't do a very good job with Malik Neighbors.
They did not.
He's legit.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But what was I going to say? Oh, so living in Michigan, I get the rare opportunity to speak to Michigan fans, and I asked a buddy at work. I said, "What do you think about Roman Wilson?" Well, yeah, the same thing Holler said. Yeah, he really torched those early teams, and to start the year, he was leading the country, I think, in touchdown receptions or something like that through those first 3 games, and those were the exact words out of his mouth. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah. To be fair, he did it in Senior Bowl too against some good competition.
Right.
I think he needs to go to one of those, Shanahan, McVay style offenses. I think he would do really well in one of those kind of systems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I hope all of our wide receivers go to Shanahan or McVay systems. That's it.
They all need to go there.
Yeah. Right. Let's all get there.
Some of the good fits that I think Nick Spanky put down here was Chargers, Broncos, and Saints. I think all those, all 3 of those would be really good. The Broncos really need wide receivers. The Chargers
Broncos one is interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
Assuming they get a quarterback, that would be kind of interesting because it seems like Courtland Sutton is out the door there. So Roman Wilson, Jerry Jeudy. Saying that out loud, that feels a little underwhelming. But
Marvin Mims.
Yeah, I say what I said.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, I would like all 3 of these landing spots: Chargers, Broncos, Saints.
Yeah.
Well, the Chargers, we know what we're getting because he just ran that offense. So
yeah, exactly. That's drop him right in and start day 1 pretty much right over QJ there.
Although I think Herbert might be a little bit better than JJ McCarthy.
Just a little bit. He might all there for him. He just needs a little bit less separation. I would like the Broncos, just because how much I love Sean Payton. I think that would just be, he's a smart enough guy to use his guys in the right way. And Saints get their McVay guy into the building, or Shanahan guy. It's all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Shanahan. But yeah, no, I think he would be a good complement to Olave. There's Shaheed still.
He's a free agent.
The free agent. So yeah,
is he unrestricted or what is he?
That I don't know.
Yeah, but I think they need another wide receiver, obviously, and I we've talked about it already. Michael Thomas is cooked to me. So I just think that would be pretty darn good with Olave.
I can't spell that guy's name apparently.
Shaheed is I don't know what this is. It's ERFA, some kind of restricted free agent, I'm guessing. What does the E mean?
Exclusive rights.
Thank you. Also, I just found this out. Shaheed, he played college football at Weber State, which is like 20 minutes from my house. So, woohoo!
Hey-o.
Guy.
Sweet. That's cool. You guys want to get into this Malachi Corley fella?
Let's do it.
All right. He stands at 5'10", 215, and he's a violent man. That is for sure. You guys see him truck that DB. I mean, it was like 7 yards down the field, but dude,
it was clearly pass interference.
Yeah,
but it was impressive nonetheless.
Yeah. That poor DB is in his back pedal, like, oh, which way are we going here? Just truck stick.
Yes.
But what did you guys think about Malachi Corley?
So I'll start with the good. So he's built pretty well. He's the Yak King is what I put down here. He averaged 9.78 yards after the catch. So that's for every catch he had, he basically got a first down, essentially is what that means. So I mean, freaking awesome there. Now let's get to some of the bad things here. So his hands are okay. Route tree, very limited. The real concern I have here, so like almost 80% of his routes that he ran, like 77% of them were short of the first down marker, so 9 yards or behind the line of scrimmage, which to me, it tells me 2 things. 1, he doesn't know how to run routes, and 2, the offense might just maybe they didn't have a very good quarterback, and they just said, "This is our best. Yeah. This is our best player. Let's just throw him the ball and just let him do his thing." So I'm not sure how that's going to translate into the NFL.
Sure.
Yeah, so that is the biggest weakness I saw as well. Like he needs to be able to run good routes to run routes. Excuse me. Wow, to translate to the NFL right away. Right. So I think it's going to take some time. I think he could be a really like a steal if you can get him in the end of the second. You don't want to hopefully not take him too early, right? But I we love Yak, right? In fantasy, Yak is Yak King. That's awesome, right? But I think in order to get that Yak, you're going to have to be able to run a route well. So I think he's more. I don't want to say a project, but he is more a little bit of a project, right? He's got to go to a really good team that they're going to use him in the right place and in the right way, and they're going to also need to be able to teach him, right? And he needs to be able to get better. And so I just think that also the other big weakness is he went to Western Kentucky, so they weren't really playing the best competitors. But he did. I see these notes here. He did have some big numbers against good teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he played against 5 Power 5 teams in the last 3 years. So he started for Western Kentucky for 3 years. He played against Ohio State, Indiana twice, Auburn, and Michigan State. He got a touchdown in 2 of those. He basically got double-digit targets in every one of those games, about like 70 to 90 yards, depending on the game. So like he did well when they played good teams. Now, some of that could have just been I didn't look to see how much of that was in garbage time, right? Because I'm assuming Western Kentucky lost those games quite handily. Maybe not the Indiana games.
So he might have been close to that with Michigan State as well, to be honest with you.
That is fair. Yeah. So I feel like I want to like Malachi Corley, and whenever I watch him, like I want to like him just because he does some exciting things. I just feel like we've seen this receiver build who's gets a lot of yards after the catch, does good things, just doesn't translate to the NFL just because they can't run routes. They can't consistently get open in the NFL. And I mean, playing at Western Kentucky, it's easy to run around guys who aren't going to make it to the league when you get to the NFL. Some of these defenders who are just as fast as you are or know how to take a better angle to the ball, maybe wrap you up in a tackle.
Just as physical,
it might not be so good. So I'm kind of out on Corley, I guess is what I was getting
so on the scale of Deebo Samuel to Treylon Burks, where does he fall in there? Closer to Burks? Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean,
that's fair.
It's kind of hard to be like Deebo.
But one of a kind for sure.
Not good to be like Treylon Burks. But I do think he has the ability to get better. When I was looking up some things, he started as a defender, right? And so he's transitioned all the way to an offensive player. Yeah, well, in high school, not in college.
Oh, okay.
But like his, and so I think he's more of a project than anything. So I think it really depends on where he's going and anything for me. I want to see where he goes before I start to say I'm totally out on him. I think he's, somebody that can, like if he were to if he goes to, let's say,
we'll say he goes to Buffalo. How do you feel about him?
Well, I don't love that because he may need to be used like right away, right? Because we don't know about Stephon Diggs, we don't know about Gabe Davis. So I would like him to go to a team that already has a true number one, and then he fits in as a number two, and gives him a little bit of time before he starts to really produce.
Yeah. So my problem with him going to Buffalo would just be their wide receiver development. Like it's been Stephon Diggs, and you traded for Stephon Diggs to get him into your building. Otherwise, we're talking about Gabe Davis, Khalil Shakir, and I know Khalil Shakir. Yeah, he showed up at the end of the season here, but outside of that, I don't have a draft pick sitting in front of me, but just nobody has developed within that system as a a consistent wide receiver too to Diggs there. I mean, they had Cole Beasley when Josh Allen first started, but I mean, we all know Cole Beasley is just a chain mover. He was that his entire career prior to being with Josh Allen. So
what if he goes to Houston as kind of a Brandon Cooks replacement?
I would like that.
Please. I would be
that.
excited if he gets Slowick. And Slowick saw Debo up close and personal and how they used him, and you can probably just pencil him in for a similar type role. And all the underneath work, all that stuff, and let Nico do all the Ayuk deal, and there we go. And Tank Dell's out here too. So
and then I think another good spot could be Jacksonville, Baltimore. But I don't love the way they use wide receivers in Baltimore, but they do need them. So I don't. I think it will really depend on where he goes at the end of the day.
Sure,
definitely.
Like the other two, I think have a little bit more of a definitely Ladd, but I think the other two overall, they can go at a wider range of places and will be super effective. I think for him, it really will depend on he needs to go to a more offense that are really, really good with developing the wide receivers. And so I just think for him, it's going to be a little bit harder.
How would you rank these three that we talked about tonight?
How we talked about them? Ladd,
yeah,
Roman,
Corley.
Same.
You know what? I'll just for the sake of it, I'll put Corley over Roman Wilson. I don't feel particularly strongly about it, but I do like the skill set and like what we've talked about. Everybody going into that too high shell. Does he really need to be a superb route runner, or if he's getting the ball in space underneath? I don't know. And then we can see if his yak ability really how far that yak ability can take him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think they're Roman and Corley are much closer than Ladd and the other two are right. So I just think you can get Roman and Malachi late second, early third. For both of them there, and I would take either of them.
Yeah,
I will say that Roman, like I said earlier, Roman I think is a little bit of a better prospect coming in. Right, there's still more of a Malachi's still got to develop more, I think, than Wilson does.
Corley's definitely more raw, I'd say. He's definitely more the project.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
But sometimes those pan out.
Absolutely.
Yep. It all comes to that player development for sure. As I'm getting older in the dynasty space, I'm kind of leaning more towards these teams that just develop the hell out of players, and you can just see Joe Blow and Joe Schmo come into the offense and they don't miss a beat.
Yep.
And it always comes back to the 49ers, but I mean, Debo missed a game and they have freaking Chris Conley and Trent Sherfield out here, catching passes and being effective within those systems. And I just think that speaks a lot to their player development, to where they can be useful guys. They're not going to be superstars by any stretch of the means, but they can be useful.
Sure.
So if you have skills, they're going to get it out of you.
Yep. One of the articles I looked at, San Francisco is a spot for Corley, and obviously we would love that, but
2 Debos? Wow.
Right. Yeah. On the same.
Yeah.
So I think,
just check it down.
I think that the Cowboys would be a nice spot for any of these guys too. They really don't have anyone outside of CD Lamb. I know we like Fergie at tight end, but
what is Brandon Cook's contract there?
Another article
Dallas.
In Texas. In Dallas. Technically, they're both in Texas.
Not narrow it down.
Another article I was looking up for Corley is they said the Eagles or the Chiefs. So obviously,
God, please not the Eagles.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking in my head. Is please not the Eagles. Obviously the Chiefs, but you know how they are with wide receivers. I think that would be nice though. They could use him in a how maybe they wanted to use Kadarius Toney.
Right. Who do you think the player is that got attacked by the coyote? Do you think it was Toney?
Kadarius
It's gotta be, right?
Dude, because when I saw that report, I was like, just say it was Toney. Just put it out there, man. Who else? he's probably like, hey guys, you guys think I can outrun this coyote? Like just
Right.
some ridiculous thing, you know?
Yep.
Like he probably
Kadarius Toney for sure.
seeking a coyote out for this situation.
That's kind of what I thought too when I first saw the report. I was like, how much you want to bet that was Tony?
Yep.
All the wild
agree.
stuff that happens in Vegas, it's all going to be linked to Kadarius Toney by the end. You guys got any parting words of knowledge? Any thoughts?
I just wanted to ask you guys who you got for the Super Bowl.
Ooh, I am rooting for the 49ers.
Rooting for the 49ers, but I think Chiefs will probably win, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can't bet against Mahomes, but I would like to see the 49ers win it.
This might be two of my least favorite teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
So it is not a fun Super Bowl for me. But I'm probably rooting for the 49ers. I do think they win it this year. I think this is Shanahan's third time going to the Super Bowl. I think he finally gets one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for my Puka this year. When I find him, I will not be telling anybody. Although I did talk about Puka on the show last summer. So, and I think really someone like that's going to be found after the combine, you know, when we see a little bit more, maybe like a combine darling a little bit. I don't think Puka was really a combine, darling, let's say. Yeah. So it's going to be hard to find another Puka, to be honest.
Development, man. It's the offensive mind, all that, you know.
That's what I was just going to say.
Puka produced like garbage at BYU, and he tested bad. The fact that he did anything is just like, what happened? Like, is it a product of McVay, or is it like just other coaches just didn't know what to do with them?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? Because there were a little bit of flashes on some of the highlights I watched with BYU. So there were some flashes.
He had a highlight reel at BYU.
Not a highlight reel. I had to watch probably 500 different videos,
like a TikTok.
There was a time, a long time ago where Kenny Galladay was a very good wide receiver because Matthew Stafford threw him the ball, and he got paid a lot of money because of that.
He had one good year, right? Galladay.
Yeah.
Kenny G.
He was actually pretty solid for us. He could never stay healthy and stay on the field. I wasn't sad to see him go because I had an inkling that Stafford was making him good because I saw Stafford throw to some pretty bum wide receivers and do the same thing with them.
Yep.
But yeah.
So are you calling Puka?
I think Puka is good, and he's in a perfect spot, to be with McVay and gets used perfectly for what he is, man. I mean, he's just too physical. He's not going down on first contact. The dude he's awesome. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I had more Puka.
Sorry, have my pooks.
Yeah, right in my pooks.
I have it all in a lot of our leagues. Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll never get any of them.
But yeah, once I do find my Puka of 2024, I will let you all know, and maybe you'll listen to me this year.
I listened to you last year. I had a fair share of Puka.
I doubt I will be able to get it.
Listen enough.
There's only one Puka here every other every couple of years. So
yeah,
we'll see.
That's very rare. So
yes,
if we get another one, hopefully we can identify it and capture it. But
if we hit on another one, oh my goodness, man, oh man,
we're on to something.
We're gonna have to get a pay raise.
Yep.
You guys are getting paid.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
that's what I'm talking about, a pay raise.
All right, we should get out of here.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.